Rori Hache and Kandis Fitzpatrick, two young women robbed of their futures by the same man.
We haven't been able to go into the residence, and that was one of the delays here. As investigators initially got on scene, they located what appeared to be a suspicious package.
There was no question here in Oshawa today whether or not Adam Strong was guilty of killing two young women. The question was, what did his acts warrant?
Take a look at this quiet street in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. It's the last place you'd expect a series of gruesome murders to happen. And this is Adam Strong, a seemingly ordinary man who lived here. To his neighbors, Adam was just another face in the crowd. But little did anyone know Adam harbored a chilling secret that would soon disturb this peaceful community. Who was Adam Strong, and what led him down this dark path? How did his ordinary life conceal such horrifying act? To address these questions, let's turn the clock back to December 2017, when the news of the sudden disappearance of young girls sent shockwaves through Oshawa. Rori Hache, a young 18-year-old aspiring artist, and Kandis Fitzpatrick, a 19-year-old known for her kind spirit, unfortunately both fell victim to a sinister act that defied comprehension. Before we dig into this story, let's take a moment to send our thoughts and sympathies to the families of both Rori and Kandis and everyone affected by their loss. Let's come together to uncover the truth behind this heartbreaking tale. Many crimes remain unsolved for various reasons, such as incomplete investigations or overlooked leads. Grieving families often never learn the fate of their loved ones. However, sometimes crimes are uncovered purely by chance. This is one of those cases. A simple call to a plumber led to the discovery of violent crimes that had occurred decades ago. This is the story of two teenagers who suddenly disappeared. Their tragic deaths discovered years later by unexpected circumstances. The discovery of their remains shocked the community and shed light on the hidden dangers lurking in this quiet neighborhood. How did a routine plumbing call expose a murderer? Stay with us as we piece together this shocking tale piece by piece. Our story begins with the sudden disappearance of an 18-year-old high school girl in August of 2017. Rori Hache was born on July the 9th, 1999 in Oshawa. From the start, life wasn't easy for her. She was the only child of Shannon Dion, and her father was not involved. On top of that, her maternal grandfather had criminal connections, casting a dark shadow over her upbringing. Despite these challenges, Rori had moments of joy and normalcy. She was known for her vibrant personality and love for dancing. She excelled in school during her early years, showing promise and talent in various activities. However, her stability was short-lived, and as she entered her teenage years, life took a darker turn. Rori fell into a spiral of drug addiction and erratic behavior. Her struggles with addiction were severe, and despite multiple attempts at rehabilitation, she found it difficult to break free from it. These periods of temporary sobriety were marred by frequent relapses, making her behavior increasingly unpredictable. In June of 2017, at the age of 17, Rori discovered that she was pregnant, adding a significant burden to her already tumultuous life. She attempted to reclaim some stability, but relapsed into drug use by mid-August, further complicating her situation. Then came the fateful day when Rori suddenly vanished without any trace. Surveillance footage captured her leaving a hospital emergency room, looking disoriented and distressed. This was the last time anyone saw her alive. The image of her walking away from the hospital, seemingly lost and vulnerable, haunted those who knew her. Her family was thrown into a state of panic. They immediately reported her missing, and an investigation was launched. Friends and family searched tirelessly, but there were no significant leads. The investigation into Rori's disappearance was painful and frustrating for her loved ones. They were left in the dark, grappling with the uncertainty of not knowing what happened to her. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months with no sign of her. The community of Oshawa was left wondering, where is Rori? What could have happened to her? The disappearance of Rori Hache was not just a personal tragedy for her family. It also underscored the vulnerability of those struggling with addiction and the chilling reality of predatory violence. When Rori vanished in August of 2017, her family and friends were thrown into a nightmare. The search for her began immediately after her disappearance was reported. Her mother, Shannon Dion, led the efforts, driven by a desperate need to find her daughter. Flyers were distributed across Oshawa and surrounding areas, and social media campaigns were launched, pleading for any information about Rori's whereabouts. Local authorities took the case seriously from the outset. They began by retracing Rori's last known location, starting with the surveillance footage showing her leaving the hospital emergency room. Investigators questioned hospital staff and reviewed the footage for any clues. However, the footage offered no answers as to where Rori went after leaving the hospital. The community rallied around Rori's family. Volunteers helped in the search, organizing neighborhood canvases and looking in places where Rori was known to frequent. Despite their tireless efforts, Days turned into weeks with no substantial leads. Each passing day without news deepened the agony for her family. Police broadened their search, checking local shelters, known drug houses, and areas where homeless individuals often stayed. Rori's struggles with addiction meant she had been in and out of those places before, but this time there was no sign of her. Her family feared the worst while clinging to hope. Authorities enlisted the help of media outlets to keep Rori's story in the public eye. News segments and articles highlighted her case, urging anyone with information to come forward. The public's attention was crucial, but as time passed, the media coverage waned and news stories took precedence. Rori's uncle gave an interview to the media. He mentioned that he could sense something was wrong with Rori the last time he saw her. She seemed too afraid to talk to him, and when he hugged her one last time in August, he felt unease. A few days later, Rori vanished from Memorial Park in downtown Oshawa. Her uncle said she seemed cornered and afraid to even talk about what was going on in her life. Rori had lived with her uncle and his family the previous year while he was under house arrest on drug charges. During this time, she spent much of her time in Oshawa's downtown core and frequently visited the refuge, a youth center downtown. Her mother, Shannon, revealed that Rori had struggled with drug addiction since high school, starting off when someone gave her crystal meth in her first month of high school. Despite her mother's efforts to get her daughter help, including reporting herself to the Children's Aid Society, Rori's battle with addiction continued. In the last 6 months of her life, her family thought Rori had turned things around. She had returned to school, had a job, and even her own apartment. She was also in a relationship, pregnant, and determined to keep the baby. However, the reality was much darker. Durham Regional Police Constable Christopher Kane had become fairly well acquainted with Rori. He met her while patrolling Oshawa and conducted wellness checks on her, trying to connect her with social services. In late August of 2017, Constable Kane had an encounter with Rori at a crosswalk near the Midtown Mall. She was swinging on one of the poles like a kid. Constable Kane noticed Rori's uneven hair, which she admitted she had cut it herself, and a visible injury to one of her hands that she attributed to a mugging. During their conversation, Rori told the officer she had been using drugs, including cocaine and crystal meth, and that she had to go on dates to pay for these drugs. She also revealed that she was camping out on the streets instead of staying in her apartment because it was dirty, and she was concerned she'd be forced to work there, providing sexual services. Rori's grandmother, Christia Mildick, told Global News that the last time she had spoken to Rori on the phone was August the 27th, and everything seemed fine. However, shortly afterward, Christia realized something was wrong. Rori had promised to stay in touch, but days went by without a word from her. The silence was unusual and deeply unsettling. Christia, like the rest of Rori's family, felt an increasing sense of worries. She knew Rori well and sensed that something terrible might have happened. Desperation set in, and Christia joined the search efforts with renewed urgency. She contacted everyone she could think of, hoping someone might have seen or heard from Rori. Months passed with no new information. Rori's family was left in a painful limbo, not knowing whether she was alive or dead. They clung to the hope that she might still be out there somewhere, perhaps unable to reach out for help. Every phone call, every knock at the door brought a mix of hope and intense fear. Was Rori still out there somewhere? Would someone finally come forward with a crucial piece of information? The investigation seemed stalled, but the family refused to let Rori's memory fade. They continued their efforts, holding on to the belief that the truth would eventually come to light. Weeks went by and the police failed to find who killed Rori. Then on September the 11th, 2017, in Oshawa, Ontario, a fisherman discovered a disfigured and decomposed human torso in the city harbor. The fisherman quickly alerted the authorities, who arrived at the scene to retrieve the remains. The police retrieved the remains and took them for forensic examination. The body was missing its limbs and head and was practically gutted. Forensics experts were brought in to examine the remains, hoping to gather any clues that could lead to an identification. The initial examination revealed that the torso belonged to a young woman, estimated to be between 18 and 25 years of age. However, without the head or limbs, identifying the victim was an immense challenge. A fragment of a tattoo was found on the neck, providing a glimmer of hope. However, the degree of decomposition made it impossible to fully decipher the design. DNA analysis was conducted, but no immediate matches were found in the national database. The police turned to missing persons reports, cross-referencing the few details they had with the numerous cases of missing young women. As weeks turned into months, the case grew colder. The police expanded their search, looking into reports of missing persons not just from Oshawa, but from neighboring areas as well. The lack of concrete leads and the deteriorated condition of the body made the investigation painstakingly slow. Then, nearly 2 months after the discovery, a breakthrough came. The forensics forensics team managed to piece together enough information from the DNA and the tattoo to identify the victim. The torso was that of 18-year-old Rori Hache, who had been missing since August. The identification was a devastating blow to Rori's family, who had been holding out hope for her safe return. But with this identification came even more questions. How did Rori end up in the harbor? What had happened to her in the time between her disappearance and the discovery of her remains? The police knew they were dealing with a heinous crime, and the search for answers intensified. The community, still reeling from the shock, rallied around Rori's family. Vigils were held, and the public's interest in the case surged. People wanted justice for Rori, and to ensure that whoever was responsible was brought to justice. The discovery of Rori's torso was not just a tragic endpoint for her family's search, but a horrifying revelation that set off a chain of events leading to deeper investigations and shocking discoveries. The police now had a confirmed murder on their hands and a desperate need to uncover the truth behind Rori's brutal death. Who was responsible for this atrocious murder? And most importantly, would the police be able to track down the perpetrator and bring them to justice? The search for these answers would lead to some dark and unexpected places, uncovering a sinister presence lurking in the community. Rori Hache's case took a darker turn as more details emerged. At the time of her disappearance, Rori was pregnant, adding an extra layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking situation. Divers scoured the harbor and the shoreline of Lake Ontario, hoping to find more evidence, but no additional body parts were recovered. The missing limbs and head made it difficult to determine the exact time and cause of death. However, forensics experts discovered severe injuries on the torso, indicating that Rori had been tortured before her death. The brutality of Rori's injuries painted a horrifying picture. It was clear that she had suffered immensely in her final moments. The nature of her wounds suggested prolonged torment, and the dismemberment of her body indicated a calculated effort to conceal the crime. Whoever was responsible had gone to great lengths to try and ensure Rori's remains would never be found. Yet, despite these efforts, the discovery of her torso was just the beginning of uncovering the shocking truth. The revelation of Rori's pregnancy added a new layer of urgency to the investigation. It wasn't just one life that was taken, but two. This heinous act galvanized the police and the community, intensifying their resolve to bring the perpetrator to justice. But who could have committed such a monstrous act? The search for answers would lead investigators down a dark path, revealing more than they could have ever anticipated. What would the next piece of evidence reveal? How would the investigation unfold from here? The grisly details of Rori Hache's death were only the beginning of a chilling story that was far from over. Despite having Rori Hache's torso, the police struggled to make significant progress in the case. They had no exact crime scene, no murder weapon, and no substantial leads to link her body to a potential suspect. The investigation seemed to be at a standstill, and Rori's family was left in agony waiting for justice. Then, a strange 911 phone call came through to the Durham Regional Police Services from a plumber, leading to a breakthrough. A few months after the gruesome discovery of Rori's torso, the Wood family moved into 19 Macmillan Drive in Oshawa. Soon after settling in, they noticed a strange and unpleasant smell emanating from their home. Concerned, they informed their downstairs neighbor, Adam Strong. He assured them it was a minor plumbing issue. Despite his polite demeanor, something about him seemed off. When David Wood's wife brought him cookies as a neighborly gesture, he didn't let her inside his apartment, only accepting them at the door. She caught a glimpse of the terrible disorder and the foul smell inside. Strong claimed he was about to renovate, but his behavior raised suspicions. The worsening smell and persistent sewer blockage prompted the Wood family to call in a plumber on December the 29th of 2017. Two plumbers, Sean Finn and his partner, arrived and began investigating the issue. What they discovered was beyond comprehension. A mass of flesh, hair, and bone fragments weighing over 10 kilograms clogging the pipes. Among the grotesque remains were disfigured human fingers.
Communications.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, you?
Good, thanks. I'm a plumber and I'm on site for a job, and we've been pulling back. We probably pulled back about 10 pounds, 15 pounds of it looks like flesh type of stuff, meat. We can't get it clear, but we keep pulling back chunks of whatever the hell it is.
Adam Strong, the downstairs neighbor, feigned surprise and claimed ignorance about how such grisly remains ended up in the sewer pipes beneath his residence. Sensing something wrong, Sean Finn immediately contacted the police, ensuring that Strong did not have the chance to tamper with any evidence. Police swiftly descended upon 19 Macmillan Drive, turning the once quiet residential area into a sprawling crime scene. The investigation into Adam Strong's residence revealed a house of horrors, a place where unspeakable acts had been committed. Inside Strong's apartment, they uncovered more remains, pieces of a severed head and limb fragments. meticulously stored in his freezer. The scene was a horrifying picture of neglect and decay, with dirty dishes, rotting food, trash strewn about, and adult magazines, adding a surreal layer of darkness to the scene. Law enforcement personnel meticulously cataloged and gathered evidence from every corner of that apartment, piecing together the timeline of events leading to the victim's tragic end. Strong's attempt to dispose of the body by flushing parts down the sewer not only failed, but also served as a chilling indicator of the lengths he would go to conceal his crimes. Forensic analysis confirmed suspicions that the remains found in the sewer pipes and freezer belonged to Rori Hache. Adding to the tattoo on the recovered torso, and DNA evidence conclusively linked the gruesome discoveries to the missing teenager. Blood-stained clothing, shoes, and traces of blood throughout the apartment painted a chilling picture of the brutal acts committed within those walls. Investigators also found evidence of a dissection table, suggesting that Strong had used the apartment as a macabre workshop or dismembering Rory's body. The mounting evidence was overwhelming. Finally, the police had enough to make an arrest. Adam Strong was taken into custody, marking a crucial step towards justice for Rori Hache. Adam Strong, then 45 years old, had lived at 19 McMillan Drive in Oshawa for over a decade. To his neighbors and acquaintances, he appeared as an ordinary man, quiet, unremarkable, and with no criminal record. He held a job as a gas station operator and occasionally worked as a security guard, blending into the fabric of the community. However, beneath this facade of normalcy lurked a darker reality. Strong's private life revealed a fascination with BDSM practices, a world he openly engaged with online. This interest hinted at a complex and troubled psyche, one that former partners would later describe as sadistic. His online activities and discussions about power dynamics and control took on a chilling new significance in the light of the discoveries made inside his apartment. The revelation of Strong's hidden life and the gruesome evidence found in his residence shocked not only those who knew him superficially, but also the wider community. It raised disturbing questions about how someone perceived as ordinary could harbor such dark and violent tendencies. As the investigation deepened and authorities began to piece together the timeline of events leading to Rori Hache's tragic fate and the possibility that Strong's crimes might extend beyond this single horrific case loomed large. The story doesn't end here. Instead, it's linked to another tragic case of another teenager whose fate intertwined eerily with Adam Strong's sinister activities. Kandis Olga Fitzpatrick's life was marked by struggles, especially her battle with addiction. Born on February 3rd, 1989, she disappeared without a trace in March of 2008, leaving her family and friends in painful uncertainty. Years later, on November 4th, 2021, a shocking discovery rocked Oshawa. Human remains were found in a remote area. The community held its breath as investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind these haunting remains. A few days later, the heartbreaking confirmation came. The remains were identified as Kandis Olga Fitzpatrick. It marked the end of a long search for answers, but also the beginning of new questions about what had happened to her. Strong was already arrested for the murder of Rori Hache as part of her remains were found in his home. Initially, he blamed his arrest on faulty plumbing, but as the investigation was carried out, investigators couldn't help but also draw parallels between Kandis's case and another chilling discovery linked to Adam Strong. Both Kandis and Rori struggled with addiction and vanished under mysterious circumstances. The discovery of their remains sparked fears that their deaths might be linked to the same perpetrator. When investigators searched Adam Strong's home, they found a second DNA profile on various items, including a knife in the kitchen, the wall, and the ceiling of his bedroom, a bondage device, a pet leash, and in his freezer, where dismembered remains were also discovered. This second DNA belonged to 19-year-old Fitzpatrick, who had last been seen in 2008. Although her body was never found. During an 11-hour interview on November 8, 2018, conducted by Durham Regional Police Detective Paul Mitten, Strong admitted to dismembering Hache. The community waited anxiously as the investigation unfolded, hoping for justice and closure for both young women and their families. Adam Strong was eventually convicted of first-degree murder in the killing of Rori Hache and manslaughter in the case of Kandis Fitzpatrick. During the trial, Strong acknowledged that prosecutors had proven he dismembered the two women, but argued they failed to prove he killed either one. Ontario Superior Court Justice Joseph DeLuca found that Strong killed Hache in September 2017 by repeatedly hitting her in the head with a hammer as she lay bound in his bedroom.
In July 2021, our homicide unit received information that Mr. Strong, while incarcerated, had disclosed information pertaining to the location of Kandis Fitzpatrick's remains.
Can you tell us what deemed the package suspicious in the first place?
Like I said, it caused concern for our officers, and we want to make sure that, their safety comes first, and as well as the safety of the occupants in the adjacent residences.
We're still
collecting a lot of evidence from the scene. So this is going to take us several weeks just to compile exactly what we're looking for.
Investigators subsequently obtained judicial authorization to take custody of Adam Strong, and on November 4th, we conducted an operation which led us to a small clearing by the tree line behind Secreto Drive in Oshawa.
The killing was classified as first-degree murder because it occurred during a sexual assault. The judge also found that Strong killed Fitzpatrick in 2008, but there was insufficient evidence for a murder conviction. Both women were dismembered following their deaths, and their remains were stored in a freezer as Strong sought to dispose of them over months. This further supported the finding that he killed them. Fitzpatrick was last seen in 2008 when she was 19. Her body was never found, but in July of 2018, police confirmed that her DNA was found in Strong's basement, including on a specialty hunting knife used for skinning and gutting animals. Throughout the trial, Strong maintained his innocence in the killings, but admitted to dismembering the women. Despite his claims, forensic evidence and witness testimonies proved damning. When police confronted him about the evidence found in his apartment, he confessed, saying, "Okay, you got me. The gig's up. It's a body." Finally, Adam Strong was found guilty of first-degree murder in Rori Hache's case and manslaughter in Kandis Fitzpatrick's. The sentencing marked the end of a long and painful journey for the families. Bill Fitzpatrick, Kandis's father, recounted his years of searching and the devastating news of finding her DNA in Strong's home, saying, "After all the years of searching, this was not the outcome I expected. I was shattered by the news." Shannon Dion, Rori Hache's mother, unable to attend due to COVID-19, spoke via video conference, describing the nightmare of realizing her daughter's fate. "This is when I knew this was a nightmare I was never going to wake up from." Adam Strong's sentencing ensured he would no longer pose a threat to the community, but it also served as a solemn reminder of the tragic loss suffered by both families and the community of Oshawa. The impact of Adam Strong's crimes in Oshawa, Ontario, continues to resonate deeply. The lives of Rori and Kandis were tragically cut short, leaving families devastated and a community grieving. While Strong's sentencing brought some closure, it underscored the need for stronger safety measures and justice. What are your thoughts on improving safety for vulnerable individuals? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this story important, please like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us raise awareness about crucial issues like this. Thank you for joining us in remembering those lost and working towards a safer community.